check out the Directive 8020. So here's the deal. I tried Directive 8020 at Summer Games Fest.
Developer Supermassive Games really made their mark on the horror game landscape with 2015's Until Dawn, but the Dark Pictures anthology really brought the heat by offering gaming's closest analog to Netflix's Black Mirror series. With the latest installment on the way, the developers have plans for an ambitious return that finally ventures into sci-fi horror while also putting players in more direct control of the tense encounters that await the characters in this dark story.
I played the demo too.
At Summer Game Fest 2025,
I'm very interested in hearing what he has to say though, because I have strong feelings. And I loved The Quarry. Like, did you guys play The Quarry? I don't actually know. The Quarry is another example of one of those games that is not, like, it's objectively not great, but it's in the same, like, genre, I guess, as most of Supermassive's stuff. But it was this game published by 2K, and it was like a very campy, kitschy, sort of B film, what do they call it? B grade movies? B I don't know, whatever they call it. But it's like a campy horror movie in a video game. It's got plenty of problems, but it's just kind of a good time. It's just kind of a good time. You don't take it that seriously. It's fine. It's pretty good. It's got the actor from the D&D movie as well. He's been in a lot of other stuff, but that's where I immediately recognize him from too. And honestly, I had a good time. I had a good time. I thought it was pretty good, even though it doesn't really deserve a high Metacritic score probably. I had a good time with it. So I like these types of games, okay? I like Supermassive Games. I would even go so far as to say I'm a fan of Supermassive. They absolutely can do wrong. For example, Man of Medan, which was the game that kickstarted their horror anthology, I thought was atrocious. Okay, I thought it was like unacceptably terrible. So I have thoughts on all of this, but I have very firm thoughts on this demo thing that we played at Summer Games Fest, and I'm now thoroughly intrigued to hear what the executive editor for IGN thought of it too. Muted, sorry.
Fateful At Summer Game Fest 2025, we got to play a particularly fateful encounter from the upcoming Directive 8020, which continues the Dark Pictures saga. We also saw just how the sci-fi horror adventure game mixes things up with more real-time gameplay encounters that bring the series and its strong narrative hooks closer to a true survival horror experience.
Don't you ever point that thing at me again.
Taking place in the far future, where Earth is on the verge of collapse, a crew of scientists and space colonists travel to a distant planet poised to become humanity's next home. But as you'd guess for a horror game, the planet is home to another malevolent entity, and the crew is forced to survive against a mysterious alien presence that can mutate and take the form of any living person on board their ship.
Kind of a cool concept. I'll give him that. What was that game? I talked about it on stream the other day. I played with my buddies. Zorp, maybe? It was a game we were playing, and basically as you play it with your buddies, the game is capturing the in-game voice chat. And so it'll capture the audio from each party member. And if it kills them, the AI kills that player, you don't know because you're using in-game chat and it's prox chat. So once you leave the immediate vicinity, you can't hear your buddies until you get close. And so at one point, my buddy Michael, we were playing with, he got killed. But the game had captured a little bit of the voice chat where he was saying something like, "It's cool, I'm good. Or over here, something like that. And so we would occasionally check on Michael, be like, "Michael, where are you? Are you good? Can you hear us?" And distantly we hear, I'm good. And so we thought he was fine. We didn't think much about it. And we moved on with the session. And 5 minutes later, we'd be like, "Michael, can you run this over to us?" I'm good. Like that. That didn't really make sense. Okay. And so I'm like, "Okay, Michael, can you hold up your badge?" So we all hold up our badges, and everybody holds up their badges, but the in-game AI is smart enough to see when all of the party members perform one action, it does that too. And so it held up its badge too. Like, "Michael, say Flibberty Gibbet." I'm good. And so then we were like, oh God, Michael's been dead the whole time. And it was really cool. It was a really cool moment. And that's kind of what I would hope to see in this, is something to that extent. Something crazy that's just blows your mind and really impresses you, okay? Like, again, I think that game was, I want to say it was Zort. I want to say it was Zort. Let me check real quick, because it was good. It's still a work in progress. Yeah, Zort. It's $4 on Steam. Okay. Yeah, it's very good. Zort. It's still a work in progress. They're still working on it. But yeah, if you want to try it, $4, play with some friends. It's pretty solid. So anyway, I was hoping to see something like that with this game, because it's a cool idea that like the monster can replace any one of the party members. And in this case, it's not a co-op game, but it can replace any one of the cast members and stuff. But these games are really made or broken on their writing, in my opinion, because it's all based around interactions with the characters. A lot of what you're doing is having dialogue and then making choices, and that determines where the story goes, and it plays out through various cutscenes. I have very strong feelings on the writing in this game, and they're not that great. So let's see what he says.
Good Lord.
This has got to be why the scrubbers are damaged.
Actress Lashana Lynch, seen in The Day of the Jackal and Captain Marvel, leads the cast of characters as the pilot of the ship, and her early scenes in Directive 8020 make her such a compelling lead in this bleak story.
If he hadn't said Summer Games Fest, I would genuinely think he played a different game or a different demo than me, because I'll explain why I feel the way I feel in just a minute once he's done describing his stuff. But through no fault of the actors, I don't think it's writing related. This did not set up the story in like a compelling way, in my opinion.
Game leans into similar themes of paranoia, isolation, and fear of the unknown, which makes for an excellent setup for a Dark Pictures game. The developers were particularly inspired by sci-fi films like Event Horizon, Alien, and John Carpenter's The Thing, which helped establish the style of horror and sense of dread that Directive 8020 goes for.
Get behind me, now!
According to game director Will Doyle, who guided me through the SGF demo, Directive 8020 will still feature many of the hallmarks of a Dark Pictures experience. Still, it will also mark the start of more active gameplay sequences and choices that aim to increase the fear factor within this extended episode. I've had this idea for more real-time threats in my mind for a long time and throughout Season 1 of the Dark Pictures, and the main reason we wanted to do it was to increase the fear factor for the games. He continued, saying, "There's nothing more scary than when you're in direct control and the creatures are trying to hunt you down and kill you. That gets your heart pumping, and that was a significant part of our motivation. We also wanted to expand our audience with more engaging gameplay. It's still a cinematic, story-driven game, but it does have moments where you are making those decisions and actions with more direct control."
Don't trust him.
I got to see this real-time action
He's going to describe it, and then I'll describe it from my perspective.
sequence during a story segment where the captain and another crew member were confronted by their alien imposters. Playing as the second crew member, the imposter mutates into a grotesque monster, and I have to evade it from within the maintenance area of the ship. This played out in a tense and unnerving stealth sequence that felt similar to Dead Space or Resident Evil, which lends Directive 8020 a classic survival horror-like feel. As this is a Dark Pictures game, permanent death is a thing, and if I hadn't gotten this character out away from his imposter, the main story would have evolved differently.
Okay. You want to know, do you want me to break this down for you? Okay. Do you want to break this? Because what he's describing, again, if he had not said that this was the Summer Games Fest demo, I would legitimately think he was talking about a totally different demo than I played. I played it. Jacob's in here too. He watched me play it. And yeah, I have some strong thoughts. And I'm saying this as somebody who likes Supermassive. I like their games. And for me, I was like, oh God, Oh God, this is Man of Medan all over again. Okay. Here's the segment that he was describing. Okay. So he said the tense sequence where you have to in real time escape the monster. What you effectively have are these big vats, and like, I think it's in a sort of greenhouse area of the ship. And so you have these big beds and stuff where plants are growing and all of that. And basically, like, you start, maybe there's some crates and things blocking the way, kind of scattered around here. Yeah, and then we'll say that the ladder is like right here. So what we had to do is that the player starts like right here, okay? And the monster, big scary monster, is right here, okay? Ooh, so scary. And all you have to do is like navigate through here. You squeeze through this crack, giggity. And oh yeah, there's also Rebel like right here. So we squeeze through that crack. The monster walks this way, looking at you as you round the corner. And then you just walk, squeeze through the crack, and then go up the ladder. I was genuinely shocked that it was just not, there was like nothing more to it than that. It was genuinely confusing that like there really is not more dynamism than that. At one point, the monster came up and started following me this way. And as I got to the ladder, again, I wish I had gameplay to show you, but I basically got to the ladder, and ladders here. Whoops. No, sorry, I'm out of practice. Oh God, stop.
Total Malarkey donated $20 through
Malarkey.
Super Chat. I hate the US grading scale used for games. If 90% of games are between 6 to 8.9, you're not actually telling me anything.
It's why often
Gollum sucked and it still got 4s. Should have been 1 or 2 at
you waste half your skill by not using it. Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's why often like I'll just describe things verbally because there's no confusion, you know. It's like verbally or with a letter grade. People seem to understand letter grade more. If it's like, hey, Mind's Eye is a failure of a game, so it's an F. People get that. If you're like, hey, it's mediocre, it's bad, but it's not like a total disaster, it's a D, you know? Like Forspoken is like a D, in my opinion. And then like a totally kind of mid-average game that's just passing, but does nothing really remarkable, it's just fine, is like a C, C minus. And if you explain that, I think people start to understand it, but I agree. The typical grading scale, it just means that like half of it is not used. And it can inflate Metacritic scores for sure. But if the ladder is like right here, my little dude ran up to it and was like, oh, I'm gonna escape, yay. And the monster is coming right up on me. So he's like literally right next to me, chasing me. And I happen to reach the ladder maybe half a second before the monster swipes at me and the character is killed. But because I happen to get here, tap X or whatever it was to interact with the ladder, then it starts the cutscene where my character reaches the ladder a solid 10 seconds before the monster. He warps all the way over to the other side of the room so that they can have a cutscene where the monster is chasing me as I just barely get up the ladder. It's that little bit of clunkiness where the gameplay sections are totally separate from what actually is happening in the gameplay, which is historically why they don't mess with that real-time type of thing in these games, because it creates more dissonance between the gameplay and the narrative, where like the gameplay you don't take really that seriously. If the monster's right next to you, you still survive. Just don't think about it too hard. And it's why I personally prefer the way they did it in like Until Dawn, where they have real-time stressful moments where your heart's pumping, but they set it up through like QuickTime events. And I know some people hate QuickTime events, but I think for this type of game, that is superior than a bad sequence like this. Because what he's describing also with like a really tense stealth sequence is actually just a really bland, like run or walk through a corridor, crouch, cross the corridor. Once he turns, the monster turns and looks this way. And then you'll walk around the cover, the monster starts chasing you, but you reach the ladder in time, so it's whatever. Like, I don't find that scary. I don't find that stressful. My heart was not pumping because it was like a very simplified gameplay sequence that lasted all of maybe 20 seconds. The other thing I want to mention, because he's describing this little mental note, 413 is where we left off. He describes how compelling the characters are at the start. You see this little thing they show here? 2 days until launch. In loving memory of Bill. The demo opened with the two characters sitting here talking, like you see in this little snippet, they're talking. She's the daughter of Bill. This is not like a romantic dinner. This is the daughter of Bill, and then like the captain dude, or not captain, but like he worked with your father or with her father. And they're literally sitting, I assume in Florida, based on the foliage, and he's been dead for 5 years, but they're having a dinner where they got a cake and lit candles for the dead guy, and they're just talking about like the stereotypical thing where it's like, man, I miss him every day. He was the best goddamn pilot and space astronaut in Mars I ever saw. He was so great. I just wish he was here now to tell me what to do. It's like, again, it's what is that channel, EW? It's that kind of writing where it's just like so contrived. And it's like, how do we communicate to the player that they're sad about this guy's death? Let's have a cake. CW thing. Like, I don't understand maybe this is a cultural thing. Okay. Maybe this is a cultural thing. Tell me in chat, in what culture do you, like, on the 5th anniversary of somebody's death, get a cake and go to a restaurant and light a couple candles when it's just two people? Like, I can't fathom doing that. You know, like I genuinely don't understand it. It was just really weird and contrived. In the first like 6-7 minutes of the demo, but it felt like 20, it was just them talking and saying the same things over and over again about how much they miss Bill. He was the best guy we ever worked with. Oh, he's so great. I miss him every day. It's like, okay, maybe he was a great guy, but like, this is ham-fisted exposition. You know, at least in the Quarry, they go through exposition by like little inner character dialogue in interesting sequences, like when they're trying to break into the house or when they're sitting around the campfire and things like that. That makes sense. That's more interesting than sitting in front of a death cake, in my opinion. The other stuff they mention, you know, I can appreciate that they want more real-time threats, long time throughout the season. Dark Pictures, the main reason we want to do is increase the fear factor of our games. Again, in my opinion, it does the opposite. Yeah, we all miss Bill. We all miss Bill. In my opinion, it does the opposite because it gamifies in a very obvious way these encounters. Like during some of the most stressful sequences of Until Dawn, if you're sensitive to horror, be warned. Look at some of these like sequences in Until Dawn from a decade ago where the monster starts chasing and they'll do little things where they have like quick time events where maybe you have the chance to grab something and to just barely escape. Where's a failed quick time event? Show me a failed quick time event. Like here. So you're running, she missed the quick time event, so she ran into the chain, which alerted the monster to where she is. It sees her, it chases her down, she misses the barrel, she misses the other barrel. They gave her plenty of opportunities, but in this real-time moment, if you're not hitting those buttons, the character dies, which in this case for Emily probably is for the best. She's terrible. She's the worst. But because she failed those quick time events, and there's no reattempts, there's no rewind feature or anything, the character's fate is settled. You know, that's just, it is what it is. And so because you failed, you suffer the consequence.
Live with the consequences.
You failed the quick time events.
Live with the consequences.
Live with the consequences, okay? So I just prefer the crazy quick time events, okay? I prefer that than crappy like stealth sequences. If it's not your strength, don't do it. As I've said a bajillion times, if you can't do something well, often it's best just to not do it at all. Okay? Specifically when you're trying to create an experience, a product that you're going to sell to people, you know? Because it's just going to give people ammunition. If you can't do an open world well, maybe just don't do it. Go linear. If you can't do motion captured cutscenes well, maybe don't set up like an intense narrative where people will expect that. Maybe go with a different art style or presentation. Go like 2D or like just pixel art. Do something like that where you can get away with not doing it and do something else that you can excel at. If you can't do it well, maybe just don't do it. you know? And in this case, based on the demo I played, I really did not think that the real-time events were particularly good. But let's see what else they have to say about it, because there's more. And I'm guessing he's going to talk about one of the new features that I think is, we'll get there.
However, Directive 8020 heightens the sense of paranoia and tension when making fateful survival choices. Given that Supermassive Games' pedigree of horror adventure games is about making decisions to keep a group of survivors and friends alive to the end of the story, the added twist in Directive 8020's story with your crew being replaced by alien imposters presents an unsettling wrinkle.
Williams, say something. Let us know this isn't true.
A fateful moment occurred when the captain returned to the crew and had to decide where to shoot a crew member who had seemingly come in contact with the alien entity. Much like the games from the developers, these flashpoint moments are among the most consequential points in the story. Without giving away spoilers, I made a decision that I would come to regret. Still, according to the game director, these moments...
Sorry. I don't know if there's a way for me to discuss this bit without just like spoiling this very specific thing. So we'll get there and I will give a big spoiler warning and then I'm going to mention what we saw, okay?
Moments can also be rolled back using the turning point system, which acts as an optional story tracker and rewind system, allowing players to view different moments and choose a different path if they wish.
No! Bad Supermassive. Bad.
Live with the consequences.
That is my mantra for this. You screwed up the QuickTime event.
Live with the consequences.
Okay? Like, they are building in a system to just Control Z it and to back out. It's basically a rewind feature. And I can understand for accessibility reasons why they're doing this, but I think it literally undoes the very point of these games. The whole point is if you screw up, they die, and then they're gone. And that's what makes it tense. That's what makes it exciting. Like, if it's a system that is locked behind a specific toggle, you go in like story mode, you do that, whatever. But if this is what they seemingly are describing it as, which is that it's going to be a system within the game, like an actual gameplay mechanic where there's a button to just rewind, I find that bafflingly stupid. You made a decision, a character died, and now
Live with the consequences.
that's the deal. That's the deal. And I don't think this is even that scandalous or anything of a thing to say. To me, it seems pretty reasonable. Now, what is he describing? Well, there is this moment. Okay, so spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Shocker. There is a moment where somebody can die. As he describes, there's a guy who's like, oh, is this one of the aliens or is this the guy that we've known for the entire trip? And we, of course, don't have a lot of exposure to this character before the demo. We've seen him for all of 20 seconds. So we're tasked in the moment with deciding whether to shoot him or let him live, because we're like, oh, is he a monster or is he real? And we don't know. You make a couple of basic inferences and you try to determine it based on the dialogue and what the characters are saying and stuff like that. Where I took inspiration from was this moment here where the guy yells, and then even though he's just a human being, he hits the glass and shatters it. And this, like, he is in a detained, like, safety vault thing, like he's set aside. So it's fair, I feel, to assume that this glass on this sci-fi super futuristic space station is probably at the very least like roughly as strong as a car windshield. It's roughly like, maybe it's laminated glass or whatever it is. So I was like, he just hit that not that hard and it shattered. So this has got to be an alien. He's way stronger than a person should be. And he was doing other things. They were like, oh, we can't trust him. He's been acting weird for weeks. So I also decided to go pop and pop a cap. And then turns out, nope. Just a dude. And then it pops up with the prompt to rewind and just do whatever. Just try again. No, I made that choice. And you know what I'm going to do?
Live with the consequences.
I'm going to live with the consequences. That's what I'm going to do because that's what I did. So anyway, we'll continue on. Spoilers over. Spoilers over. Everything's fine. Continuing on.
Moments can also be rolled back using the turning point system, which acts as an optional story tracker and rewind system, allowing players to view different moments and choose a different path if they wish.
Again, I understand it's optional, but the very fact that they created it, I fear, betrays a total misunderstanding of what makes these games good, which is why it's kind of a red flag. You know, whenever there is an optional feature, but it's totally antithetical to the very premise of the game, it's still a red flag, even if it's optional. Even though they're like, you know, Ubisoft is like, oh, the XP boosts are totally optional. The fact that you created it shows a total misunderstanding of like how this progression should work, because now you're going to be pushed into encouraging people to buy the XP boost to spend money. And so you're going to balance everything so it's a little bit more bloated so that you feel the need to get a boost, you know, like even if it's optional, it can still have cascading effects throughout the rest of the game and everything else you did. And the fact that you thought that it was a good idea worries me.
I wasn't sure you'd be here.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
And again, just this is us, like I'm assuming a dinner they're having shortly before they take off to go to Mars or whatever. But again, I cannot stress how weird it is to be like, she says,
I wasn't sure you'd be here.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
The 5-year anniversary of her dad's death, and he very kindly brought a cake. It's just, people don't do this. I'm sorry. People have never done this in the history of humanity. It's just weird. It's just weird. Maybe I'm the weird one. Maybe you guys, when we clip this, I'm going to see comments where people are like, Luke, what an a-hole. You don't bring cakes after people die years later. I was like, no, I didn't set up a calendar event to remind me when this guy I worked with 20 years before died, be like, okay, in 5 years, bring a cake to his daughter. Like, sorry, maybe I'm the bad guy. I don't know, man. It's just, it's those moments where I spend the whole cutscene just being like, what? Instead of enjoying the game. And maybe that's a me problem. Fair, but I just, you know, it's these little writing things that disconnect me from it. It's not campy, silly stuff like in The Quarry, where there's plenty of writing problems or weird things that happen in that game where it's just like, that's stupid. But it's like fun stupid, you know, funny, silly, stupid. In this case, it's just like, are they already aliens? Did they already take, because human beings don't act like this. It's just weird.
So
Maybe the dad
far,
was a baker.
Directive 8020 is set to be a welcome return to the Dark Pictures series. And with the focus on giving players more direct control of the action while also heightening the sense of distrust in your dwindling party of survivors, the next game looks to offer one of the more unique and game-changing episodes the series has seen yet.
Stafford!
Okay, now I don't feel bad for the spoiler bit, because he was like, I'm not gonna spoil it, and then he just shows himself shooting the guy and be like, I would go on to regret that. Okay. Is it gonna show the button?
For more Summer Game Fest coverage, check out our recent previews of Ninja Gaiden 4 and Resident.
I'm sorry. It's just, again, I get no joy out of this, okay? Like, I like Supermassive. I want them to get back on the horse of horror, and I want them to come out with another Until Dawn-esque game. And after The Quarry, I thought, ooh, we're on track. We're getting back there. Because The Quarry kind of felt like a spiritual successor to Until Dawn in all the best ways. It really did. And as somebody that liked that, even though a lot of people did not like The Quarry, I really liked it. I played it with Nikki upstairs on the couch. We had a good time. I think I've actually played it like 2 or 3 times with friends when they come over and stuff. We do that too. So I was rooting for them with this, but maybe this is just a bad demo. But based on what I saw, this is unfortunately it feels way more Man of Medan than it does Until Dawn. Like it does not feel great. Like I get the feeling, because the other game that these guys are working on is also another game I'm interested in. I'm excited for. And that is Little Nightmares 3, which, funnily enough, I mean, you might be like, what? They're making this? Yeah, it's not the same studio that did the first two games. Supermassive is doing this one. But I wonder if more of their dev resources and stuff are going into this compared to Directive 8020. I don't know. This looks really interesting. I'm excited for this, but Directive 8020, unfortunately, I watched it, I played it, and I was just like, like, just not feeling it, fam. And that, it pains me to say, because I really like them as a studio and I want them to be successful, but sugarcoating it and pretending like this could be a really impressive thing and I can't wait to see, like, that doesn't help them. You need actual feedback that's legitimate, okay? Pretending like that rollback feature is cool is dumb. You make a choice in one of these games, the cool thing is that after you make that choice,
Live with the consequences.
that's what makes it worth doing. That's what makes it interesting. But unfortunately, they're kind of backtracking on that, which I worry is indicative of a broader misunderstanding. But maybe what we do is we look at that and we go, oh, okay, so they thought 80-20 looked really good. Okay, so that probably means that it's not going to be that great. They also thought that Arc Raiders looked terrible in like a Fortnite reskin. Okay, that probably means that game's going to be phenomenal. Maybe we just do the opposite. Maybe they're like, what's that one guy, Kramer? It's like the Kramer Index. Have you guys heard of that? So Jim Kramer, he he's like this investment guy, you know, you've probably seen him all over the place. But what people do is that they track what he recommends, like investing in, and they do the opposite, and they beat the market consistently. They do the opposite of his advice. Yeah, the inverse Kramer ETF is still beating the S&P 500 by nearly 7%. They just do the opposite of everything he does, and they end up being right more often than not. Maybe that's the IGN thing with their previews. You just do the opposite and assume the opposite of whatever they say in their previews, and you end up kind of getting it right. We'll follow it. I hope that they make improvements, and maybe it was just genuinely a bad demo, because that does happen. It is possible that some of the demos are just bad and they make the game look worse than it is. That has happened before. And I hope, frankly, that's what this was. It was just a fluke, and when we get the actual game, it's way, way better. As a fan of Supermassive Games, I'll try it. I'm guessing after this stream segment, they're not going to be that thrilled about sending me a review code, but I hope that they do, and I hope they're interested in the feedback, positive or negative. But we'll see. He took my thing.